3 o'clock on a Monday afternoon. Welcome aboard the Postgame show. Jay Phillips here inside the Herndon Chevy Studios. Captain Dave at Master Control. Elijah Campbell is with his family down somewhere along the Florida coast. I want to say Sarasota. If he texts in, of course, if he texts in about this time of day, it may be incoherent texting, if you follow my drift. But I hope he has a good time with the family. Our buddy Jack Veltri going to join us bottom of the hour. We got a lot of sound to get to from Shane Beamer, a few things from the Olympics as well, which are finally, I say finally in a bad way, like a sad way, not a like, thank God those are over. I know some people don't like them. I am an Olympics junkie. I have been. I will freely admit. And I remember the hurt, too, of missing the summer games. But I fell in love with the Olympics as a 9-year-old in 1980. Winter Olympics, USA, Russia, hockey. And, I probably would have liked them anyway. I remember a little bit about the Olympics, like when I was 5, but not really. A couple things here or there. I remember Bruce Jenner being on the Wheaties box. That's about the memory I have, I think. And I heard stories of Kevin Joyce playing in the Olympics as a Gamecock back in 72, which is painful for a lot of those guys. But I love the Olympics. And, of course, 1980, again, America and a lot of countries boycotted the summer games. But I thought it was extraordinary. So many – I'm not going to get into all the this, that, and the other, fencing and rowing and all those kind of things. I mean, I watched a bunch of that. And I know some people, and I get it, some people don't have as much of an appreciation for basketball in the Olympics. To me, I think it is, like it's basketball's World Cup. I think the NBA and FIBA have attempted at times to maybe come up with something that would be akin directly to soccer's World Cup. And they just haven't had the success because I think Olympic basketball is so ingrained in the sports culture around the planet. Whereas, again, at least for men's soccer, the Olympic tournament is an under-23 tournament. And obviously they don't want anything to upstage the World Cup. I don't blame them. I think the women's game actually should get to that point very soon. Although, really glad that America's full team won the gold medal Saturday. That was pretty cool as well. But I thought the men's and women's games, again, as I said right at the end of the halftime show, kudos to France. I hope this doesn't come across as some American basketball elitist, but I think those countries should be thrilled, or that country, both those teams, should be thrilled that they got to the gold medal game and they go home with the silver. You'd rather go to gold. I thought the French women were going to get it done, man. And for a little bit, I thought the French men might get it done. Defense late on both sides helped, and then France, boy, the girl that hit that shot at the end, if y'all didn't see it, her foot was maybe 4 inches over the line. That would have tied the game. But it was a 2 instead of a 3. But look, we said this when America was getting pushed the other day against Serbia. I guess that was Thursday. There's 2 outcomes for the American men at least, and the women too, really. I mean, I don't want to – I think they've actually won more golds in a row than the men have. But there's gold medal and there's failure. That's it. There really is no, well, hey, silver's pretty cool. Not for the United States, not in basketball. But that France pushed them the way they did. The way Serbia pushed America in the semifinal was I think it's great for the game, and I think it makes it that much more exciting when we watch something like this. But I'm sad to see him go. I thought the closing ceremony last night was pretty cool, and the way they did the little things in L.A. Again, not everybody's going to like all that kind of stuff. That's cool. It's kind of cool seeing Snoop and Dre on the stage. That's pretty neat. I dug that. I'm not sure if I like the Tom Cruise motorcycle thing or not, but that's America for you. Maybe I would have rather seen Tom Cruise. I don't know. It was sort of, I guess it was kind of like every character he's played wrapped into one, right? A little Mission Impossible, a little Maverick, and a little just, Tom Cruise. Maybe not every character he's played, but y'all get it. But I thoroughly enjoyed it. The gold medal games this weekend, the 3 of them that America won, soccer, and the 2 basketball games, tied China for the golds. I'll miss it. It was fun. And we'll talk more about the basketball a little bit later on. But Steph Curry, LeBron James, it's Steph's first Olympics. KD now has 4 gold medals. You got some younger guys into the Olympics for the first time, guys like Anthony Edwards. That was pretty cool. Drew Holiday played well. And other guys had some roles here and there, but Steve Kerr went with the veteran dudes who were as hungry as I've ever seen them. LeBron was stoked. Steph was stoked. KD was stoked. It was awesome. It was just fantastic to see how they played. In the women's game yesterday, they were stoked, and they were pushed. And that's what you want. Yeah, I don't want to see America go out there and win by – well, I mean, I guess I do, right? I mean, if they won by 30, they won by 30. But they didn't. They didn't. And that made it that much more exciting. Meanwhile, my Braves, I'll talk about them a little bit later on too. But Gamecock scrimmage took place on Saturday. Watched a lot of Shane Beamer's – well, actually, I watched all of Shane Beamer's press conference this morning. And, I as I said just a minute ago to Terry – you're not going to learn a lot as a fan or what we can present to you guys as media members from scrimmage number one. I agree with Terry 100%. Nobody got hurt. That's the biggest thing. Nobody got hurt. I read Chris Clark's report about the scrimmage as well and some of the things about Nick Harbor, that he's definitely catching the ball a lot more. And I think there were some, not concerns, but that was maybe one of the hang-ups. Is if he's going to be out there and he's going to be thrown to, he's got to catch it, duh. But that's sometimes easier said than done, and he's been working a lot with the jugs machine, and by all accounts, it's beginning to pay off in terms of what he's out there doing. You've got a lot of veterans at that spot, which I think is fantastic for this team. Again, who's going to do what? I don't know yet. We've talked about it a bunch. Mike Furry has one of the when I say more difficult jobs, I think there are so many guys that we don't know a lot about. They know more. They, the coaching staff, know a lot more about what this is probably going to look like. But soon enough, we'll get a depth chart. Soon enough, we'll have an idea. Right now, I think last time we heard from Coach Furry last week, hey, I'm looking for the best guys right now to get out there. We'll worry about schematics and formations and such later on. But right now, I need to know who my best guys are, and then I'll plug them into certain holes. And that's what you're looking for. So I think there was a good, by all accounts, a good mix of things happening. Certainly seems from what Chris was reporting on, and Jack Veltri, as I said, will be here later. Maybe at this time of year, defense is a little bit ahead of the offense, which is understandable. Again, like a spring game, I hate for any of us to read too much into that. If the defense is ahead, what does that mean? Does it mean the offense is technically behind? What if this defense is so far ahead because maybe now with linebacking depth and guys up front and at least bodies to compete in the back, that they're getting it done. Whatever. I don't always like to use this word. But whatever momentum defensively they may have been able to carry into the offseason, and considering that they haven't played since the last week in November, I don't know how much momentum there really is, but y'all see what I mean in terms of how they were able to change things up a little bit and become more productive as a defense. If that's the new starting point, the new jumping off point, I like to say sometimes, then so be it. If you've got, again, a lot more dudes at linebacker, a lot of guys up front, some really nice portal additions to help you out. A young guy like Dylan Stewart who's making a name for himself and standing out. A guy like Kennard coming over and playing really well so far from what we're hearing. You like that mix. You've got some guys up front like Tonka and Boogie that you can really count on. Is that okay? And should you expect it? If Spencer Rattler were running this offense for a second year, would we have the same concern if you heard the defense was behind? Maybe, but now with Lenoris and Robbie doing their thing, that's just kind of where things are for the offense at this point. So I think there are a few things to like about what we heard. Dave, let me get one of these cuts real quick here. And that's just cut number one. We'll start with that one, Dave, from Shane Beamer. As we mentioned, for the most part, the team remains healthy here on August the 12th.
Injury-wise, just normal bumps and bruises associated with preseason training camp. These guys didn't scrimmage today. Marquis Anderson, Vandravius Jacobs, Elijah Davis, Chakai Moore, Reed McKeska, Juju McDowell, Bam Martin Scott, and Rocket Sanders, Rocket Bam, Juju Reed, Chakai, Elijah, Dre, and Marquis. Nothing major. All those guys practiced this week and had some just normal bumps and bruises and did not go today. Expect all of them to be back at practice tomorrow and ready to rock and roll. So.
And I asked this again rhetorically a little bit earlier. At what point for some of these guys, especially a guy like Rocket Sanders or maybe Marquis Anderson, who you heard there, Shane mentioned, do you take the proverbial bubble wrap off and say, all right, listen, you got to go get hit hard in a scrimmage at some point in time? And they're hitting them in practice a little bit here and there, I'm sure. As Shane says, the normal bumps and bruises, that doesn't they don't come from not getting hit, right? So I think at this point in time, it's okay. But at what point do they take the gloves off, if you will, and begin to get a little bit more rough? We'll find that out here soon enough. 11 minutes after 3 o'clock on this Monday afternoon. We'll come back on the other side. I got some more sound to get to from Shane. Again, Jack Veltry's going to join us in a bit with a lot more of his take. We got a lot to get to from Coach Beamer. But the Associated Press Top 25 College Football Poll is out. We'll see if you agree with what the early reports are from the media on who the best teams in the country are. Lots more to do throughout the day. 803-404-6100. This is the Postgame Show. Hey, getting a new set of wheels here pretty soon. No better place than your local branch, or really any of them, to be honest with you, of the Palmetto Citizens Federal Credit Union to finance your next vehicle. They offer the same low rates on all new to 2021 models. They've got great options for older cars as well, and plans come with no payments for up to 90 days. Plus, at Palmetto Citizens, they can finance more than 100% of the retail or purchase price on new and 21 models, and they offer additional coverage and insurance options that dealerships simply cannot beat. So before you sign on the dotted line, check with Palmetto Citizens and make sure that you know how much money you can save. Go online right now to palmettocitizens.org to learn more, or again, visit any of their 14 convenient Midlands locations. My wife and I are members. We love what they do for us. We think you will too. Palmetto Citizens, achieve your potential. Welcome back into the postgame show on this Monday. Jay Phillips with you. Captain David, Master Control. Elijah Campbell has the week off. He is with family down on the beaches of Florida. Hopefully having a good time. Maybe about 6 or 7 margaritas in or something to that effect. We'll see. Jack Veltri of Gamecock Central will join us in just a bit. Speaking of which, flying partially solo today. Terry's going to come back in a bit and hang out. But tomorrow, David Cloninger is going to co-host with me. And Wednesday, Jack will be back to co-host. So looking forward to working with those guys. And then I'm away for a couple of days here before the school year begins and we get back to all of those fun things as parents and football fans. So looking forward to working with those guys coming up later on this week. The AP poll is out. No surprise that the Georgia Bulldogs are the number 1 team in the country. Ohio State is second. Oregon is third. Now, those are the only teams to get first place votes. Georgia picking up 46 of them to Ohio State's 15. Oregon got just 1 first place vote. Texas is number 4. Alabama is 5. Mississippi 6. Notre Dame 7. Penn State 8. Michigan 9. Florida State is number 10. The annual, I can't believe they put Notre Dame that high, buzz has already begun. I get it. Rarely, it seems, do they finish there. Of those top 10 teams, I don't try to be, I'm not a hater. I like Lane Kiffin. I know a lot of Gamecock fans are mad that Antoine Wells went over to Oxford. I get it. That's life in today's world. I'm not saying suck it up, rub some dirt on it. I don't mean it that way either when I say that's life, but you added your own portal additions, and they might have a heavier amount of want to than Juice did while he was in Columbia. Who knows? We'll see. But I like Ole Miss a lot. I like what Lane's doing. I still believe Lane will be Florida's next head coach as soon as this time next year. But I'm having trouble wrapping my arms around them as a top 10 team. That's probably not fair. And I do think they've got a lot of great players. But that's the one. But as we sit here and look at that, like, who might not be there at the end of the season? And Michigan at number 9. I got Michigan as an 8-4 team. I think there's a lot of stuff swirling around that Sharon Moore could use to motivate his guys. Like, hey, nobody believes in us now, but they lost so much. Their conference with Ohio State already being Ohio State. Yes, Michigan's beaten them 3 years in a row. Oregon coming in as good as anybody. Again, remember, Oregon lost 2 games last year by a combined 6 points, both 3-point losses to Washington. That was it. They were great. I mean, they are great. So, but Ole Miss, Notre Dame, Michigan, will they be in the top 10 at the end of the season? I feel like there's a real good possibility that none of those 3 are, which means they'd have to be replaced by somebody, yeah? So here's the second 10 for you. Again, Florida State's number 10, but then Missouri at 11. Utah is 12. By the way, Kyle Whittingham with some interesting comments to John Canzano about what he's seeing in terms of the future of college sports. I'll get into that a little bit later on. LSU is 13th. Clemson 14th. Lowest Clemson's been ranked in the preseason in a while, at least. Tennessee 15, Oklahoma 16, Oklahoma State 17, K-State 18, Miami Hurricanes 19, A&M is number 20. There again, 8-4. That'll get you ranked 20th, but not sure. That's we'll see. Again, history tells me A&M's going to go 8-4. Arizona is number 21. Kansas, Lance Leipold got his guys in the top 20. I mean, who'd have thunk it, right? He's doing a heck of a job, man. Southern California, 23. NC State, 24. And Iowa rounds out the top 25. So breakdown by conference, 9 Southeastern Conference, 16 schools now, over half, obviously. 6 Big Ten schools, 5 Big 12, 4 ACC, and Notre Dame is a football independent. The only other SEC schools to get votes in the poll were Kentucky and Auburn, way down the list. South Carolina did pick up votes in the coaches poll. They did not get any in the AP poll. Not at all surprised by that. At this point, you're going to have to prove to people that you can win some pretty big games. And considering you got Kentucky and LSU weeks 2 and 3, again, split those, beat ODU, and you can see Carolina potentially picking up a few votes by the end of September. But at this point in time, not at all surprised. But Georgia, listen, heavy is the head, right? And even though they're not the reigning champion, that's Michigan's job. Georgia is still seen as the best program in the country. There's less separation between Georgia and Ohio State in this poll than there is in the coaches poll. But I honestly thought there'd be an even tighter gap. I really figured that. I don't know exactly what I was thinking, but maybe like 2/3 of these would go to Georgia, and it's a little bit bigger gap. So that surprised me just a bit. That even though it's tighter than the coaches poll, it's not all that tight. Look, I think right now all of us believe that Georgia will be favored in every game they play, save for the Texas game, maybe the Alabama game. Once the season unfolds and we see how it's going, that Alabama game, though, is week 4. Now, I mean, here's this, too. Their only home game in the month of September is against Tennessee Tech, because the Clemson game's a neutral site. They're at Kentucky, and they're at Bama. So, I mean, that Kentucky game could be interesting. And Carolina fans, you've got to be hoping, of course, that Kentucky's looking ahead just a little bit. But we've talked about it a bunch. The 3 toughest games on the Georgia schedule are all in the other guy's building. Alabama, Texas, and Mississippi. You got Florida on a neutral, of course. You got Clemson on a neutral, as I said. Tennessee will go to Athens. Auburn goes to Athens in the first week of October. But is an undefeated season really there for Georgia? How good is Texas? A lot of people like to look at that Texas win in Tuscaloosa last year. I've tried to put at least a very small asterisk next to it because I don't think that's who Alabama ended up being. That's how I look at that game. I don't think that was the Alabama that ended up getting into the playoff and beating Georgia for the SEC championship. That was an Alabama that was still running what had been very effective for the last several seasons with a wide-open offensive attack, and they found out that they didn't have the line for that and that maybe Jalen Milroe's skill set was not initially there for it. Milroe ended up having a hell of a season, finishing 6th in the Heisman balloting. He's the leading Heisman vote getter that returns to college football this season. So once Nick said, all right, listen, we got to build it around what Jalen can do and what the offensive line can't. And let's figure out a way to do that. And then they did it. They went to that South Florida game. A lot of people tried to give, well, I say try, that's not fair. A lot of people give USF credit for that game. I'm going to be mean here. Sorry, USF fans. I don't give you any credit at all for that because basically that was a game where Bama stripped it to the bare bones and in 1 week's time in the rain in Tampa, for lack of a better way to put it, reinvented itself for the 2023 season. So it's a big deal that Texas went to Bama and won. But I would love to have seen Texas play Bama again about a month later. Or if Bama had been what Bama became all season long. Not telling you that Bama wins. I'm not that guy. I'm not, well, I know for a fact. They don't, I'm not that guy. But I'd like to have seen that. And so my point being, I know Texas is very, very good. But now Texas has to go run a different kind of gauntlet. So I'm curious. I like what Sark's doing. I like what Ewers does. They've had a big blow with the loss of their top tailback. But at this point in time, I just need to see Texas do it again. I need to see Mississippi do it again. I need to see if Michigan can really be that team. What Georgia's been doing the last few years is proof of how hard it is in this conference. And I'll say again, too, there's no way on God's green earth that Georgia went from being the best team in America to the 6th best team in America because of a 3-point loss on a neutral field to Alabama. But that's the nature of the beast, and thankfully that won't ever be a problem again when it comes for any of these clubs for competing for a national championship. But there you go. Georgia, number one in the country. Right behind him is Ohio State and Oregon. I do think there is separation from those three and everybody else right now. How much? That's why we play football. Come back on the other side. Speaking of football, we'll stay with it from a Gamecock perspective. Our buddy Jack Veltri on the beat for Gamecock Central with his thoughts on what we learned from this weekend's Gamecock scrimmage. You're listening to the Postgame Show. Back into talking some Gamecock football. Scrimmage on Saturday. Another practice yesterday. Team has today off. They're back at it tomorrow, the 31st. Is the opener against Old Dominion. There'll be a couple more scrimmages between now and then, obviously. To report on what we learned this weekend, we welcome back onto the program our buddy Jack Veltri of Gamecock Central, who, as I mentioned earlier, will be co-hosting with me coming up on Wednesday. I'm looking forward to that. So thank you, sir. Appreciate your time. What's the number one thing that Jack Veltri learned from either the Gamecock scrimmage or practice this weekend?
Yeah, I appreciate you having me on, Jay. I'm looking forward to co-hosting with you on Wednesday. But I think for the first scrimmage, the biggest thing I took away was, and it's not really surprising, the fact that the offense isn't 100% efficient yet, right? I think the offense definitely seemed to struggle a little bit to close out drives and finish off with touchdowns. Shane Beamer made it sound like the Gamecocks offense got down into the red zone area a few times, or at least onto the other side of the field, but had penalties or things like that that kind of set them back a little bit and forced them out of range of where they could potentially score a touchdown. So that was my biggest thing. But I think on the flip side of it, and it's kind of a double-edged sword, because the offense wasn't clicking 100% of the time, that meant the defense was stepping up and playing very well. So I think once you find a little more balance there of the defense doing what it's doing now, combined with the offense eventually getting into a rhythm, I think it will, result in hopefully some success this season.
When you, as you listen to what Shane has to say, or any other things that you guys are gathering from inside the program, when it comes to that offense, dare I say, struggling right now relative to the other side, Jack, how much of that is just about personnel and chemistry relative to any concern of a talent level?
Yeah, I definitely think it's a personnel thing right now, because you got to keep in mind with scrimmages, you're trying to get in as many guys as possible. So what these lineups look like right now on offense for a scrimmage are not going to be what it looks like on week one. And you also have to keep in mind a lot of guys were not playing in the scrimmage on Saturday. I know there were a handful of offensive linemen that weren't playing. Obviously, Rocket Sanders wasn't in the scrimmage. So you're working with what you got right now, but it's not like the complete picture. So I think some of the struggles on offense probably came from that. But it's also like, with the guys available, like I said before, you're rotating so many guys in. So it's not going to be a consistent thing. Everyone's going to struggle here and there. Some guys more than others. And once week one hits and you figure out, okay, this is what the depth chart looks like, I think things will be a lot more consistent and steady flowing. And, of course, you'll have Rocket Sanders available by then, plus all these other guys that missed the scrimmage on Saturday, assuming everyone can stay healthy.
So, speaking of Sanders, I ask, and you've touched on it a little bit there, when does the proverbial bubble wrap come off? Is that what we're really looking at? I mean, he's been popped in practice. Shane said they've got the normal bumps and bruises, but at what point do you feel like they say, all right, go? Are we there yet, or does that not happen until the opener?
Yeah, I'm not sure exactly what their overall plan is, because you still got about 3 weeks to go until the start of the regular season. If I were to guess, I would imagine, because he's been going pretty much full go in practice with the team and stuff, and he was back out there yesterday when the media was out there, I would say I would think he would play on Saturday in some capacity for the team's next scrimmage. Now, how many reps he gets, I'm not sure. I just think you got to build him up a little bit. I just would find it hard to believe if they're not going to put him in a scrimmage atmosphere at all before week one and then expect him to go out there and play however many snaps on a potential pitch count. I feel like you got to build him up a little bit to get to that week one level, because, I mean, it's a completely different game if you're going straight from just practicing without any scrimmages to going up against Old Dominion week one. I mean, you could put any other team out there. It's going to be a completely different ball game compared to what he's doing in practice. So I would imagine South Carolina is going to at least get him out there for a little bit on Saturday. How much, I'm not sure, but I feel like you definitely need to.
Talking to Jack Veltri at Gamecock Central, recapping the Saturday scrimmage, and again, a practice to follow it up yesterday. Again, Carolina football has the day off, at least from an on-field practice perspective. Let's go to the receivers, Jack, because that still remains the biggest question. You got a lot of bodies. You got a lot of talent. You got a lot of good transfers. You got a guy like Mazio Bennett coming in. You got Nick Harbor, who's ready to have a full year. If I'm trying to read between any of the lines from Shane Beamer's post-scrimmage press conference, what do I learn about how things are beginning to set up from a receiver standpoint when it comes to depth?
Well, I'm glad you brought that up because that was something I did ask him about, how the receivers looked and what that whole picture could potentially look like from a passing standpoint. And look, he's fully aware of the fact that this receiver group that they have isn't particularly big. I think you have about 12 guys that are 6'1" or under. So they don't have a ton of size. Yeah, I mean, they do have, Dale Von Campbell and Nick Harbor, who are your two big guys. So I think you try to utilize your strengths of what you got to work with, right? Nick Harbor and Dale Von Campbell probably going to be nice in the deep passing game. Other guys like AHB, Jared Brown, Gage Larvin, they're going to be good in that short to medium type of passing game. But I also think with what they've got in the passing game, it's not just receivers, right? I think you got to use what you've got in that department. But South Carolina's also been pretty reliant on tight ends over the years, and I think this year is definitely a year where you could see a lot more of it compared to years past, even though they definitely have had guys that have been top targets as tight ends. You got Josh Simon and Brady Hunt, obviously, but Shane Beamer also brought up guys like Maurice Brown as someone, and Michael Smith as well, who could potentially factor into that. So, I mean, he said whether it's 4 receivers or no receivers, he's going to try to put the best 11 out there to go ahead and win as many games as possible. What that will look like in the grand scheme of things, I'm not sure yet. But like I said, he did highlight Michael Smith, who caught a touchdown on Saturday's scrimmage, and Maurice Brown. So I definitely think those two can factor in, as well as the big-name transfers like Jared Brown, AHB, Gage Larvin, and then obviously Nick Harbor, Jacobs, and Dale Von Campbell. There's a lot of options, but we'll still have to see how it all shapes out.
Up front on offense, we know Marquis Anderson was held out, just a precautionary, Shane said. But right now, Jack, your opinion, what you're gathering, how many guys are they really looking at to pull from to make that starting 5? Is it the entire group? Because there's a bunch of O-linemen right now. Or is there maybe a group of 8 or 9 that they hope to trim down to 5?
Yeah, I think the more realistic measure of the offensive line right now is, and this has always been the case from talking to guys like Lonnie Teasley and stuff who coach the O-line, it seems like whoever is in the 2 deep is, in the words of Lonnie Teasley, preparing like a starter. So I think you're more on the flip side of that, Jay, with probably about 8 to 9 to 10 guys that you could realistically start. I think that's honestly the case. Like, you think about all the transfers, probably Josiah Thompson, potentially Cam Pringle, anyone that's coming back from last year, and all the injured guys. That's a lot of guys that you could potentially go out there and start, and I think you'd feel good about. Now, what does that O-line potentially look like for week 1? I think that's still kind of a mystery, as is the case with most of these position groups that have a lot of battles going on. But I think if I had to take a look at it and kind of piece it together, you probably start Vershawn Lee at center. You probably have Tree Babalade at one of the tackle spots, if not maybe right guard. I would think you have Josiah Thompson potentially starting at left tackle, and then the guard spots, Jakai Moore probably, and then because he's the most experienced guy on the O-line, and then at whatever spot is left at right tackle or right guard, Kason Henry maybe. I'm not sure, but you have a lot of guys that you can plug and play, and I think it's definitely going to help that, especially with all the transfers they brought in. It's a very deep group if everyone stays healthy.
Yeah, and that's obviously a big if, and certainly last year became maybe just problem number 1 for this football team was the inability to keep the offensive line healthy and cohesive. I mean, I think, what was it, Jack? The first 9 games, there were 9 different starting lineups for offensive linemen, something like that. Is just almost unheard of, even for a position that gets a lot a lot of physicality thrown its way. Before we get you out of here, a little bit on the defense. Again, they're ahead right now. Shane says that. You've said that. The write-ups have said that. You know, what Yuva and Chris were reporting on y'all's website. They said that. What's the biggest highlight there? What's the biggest positive there in terms of where this defense is? And to go back to something I asked rhetorically a little bit earlier, are they able to use the last few games of 2023 as a jumping off point in terms of the confidence that they sort of regained in themselves?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. You kind of took the words right out of my mouth there, because that was something I was going to bring up. And I think that's something I've asked, coaches and players a few times now is, look, I mean, you guys obviously struggled to create turnovers for majority of the season last year. And then for whatever reason, things clicked in November. And I think a big part of that is switching to, I believe, the 3-3-5 defense. So a lot changed in November once that kind of happened. And I think for this defense, you have to try your best to carry what momentum you got from last year over to this year with all the returnees and new players coming in. I think this defense can really be a strength for South Carolina this year. Up front with the defensive line, obviously, I think it's probably the best position group on that side of the ball, and it seemed like that was the case in the scrimmage on Saturday. And then you have a big competition at DB. I know they had one interception on Saturday, and that was the only turnover of the scrimmage apparently, which was an Isaiah McClary pick. So that's all good, and I think that competition at DB is another one with guys like Judge Carr and Bakari Swain. And I think a lot of guys could definitely be competing at that position. And then you obviously have the returnees like Jalen Kilgore, Debo Williams, Nicky Manwari, DQ Smith, O.D. Fortune. So you have a lot of experience and a lot of new guys filling in on this roster on defense. But I think right now they're probably on the right track, on schedule, and I'm interested to see how they kind of maybe do it again on Saturday. I think the offense will be better on Saturday, but in return, how will the defense look? I think that's probably what is one of the things I'm most interested to see.
Good stuff, sir. Appreciate you. I'll see you in here again on Wednesday. Thanks for the time as always, man.
Thanks so much, man. Looking forward to it.
That's Jack Veltri, Jack T. Veltri to follow on Twitter, GamecockCentral.com. If they have a pro golf tournament and only one guy plays, does it count? I'll give you details after this. 11 minutes in front of 4 o'clock on this Monday afternoon. Welcome back into the postgame show. Jay Phillips with you here in the Herndon Chevy Studios. Captain Dave at Master Control. Elijah has the week off, enjoying time with his family down in Florida. Terry Ford's going to come hang out for a bit. We got a lot more sound to get to from Coach Beamer as well. We'll do that for you in just a second, but let me get to this story. I didn't tease it fully properly. They didn't hold a golf tournament for one guy, but if you haven't heard this yet, yesterday, the tournament in Greensboro was running long. It didn't start until Friday because of the effects from Debbie, and they were playing threesomes all weekend long, trying to squeeze this tournament in. And Matt Kuchar had been leading, was in the last group, and his group was given the opportunity to either continue playing because they didn't actually blow the horn for darkness, or they could have played the final hole, the 18th hole, this morning. And they all teed off in the final group. Again, it was threesomes. And only Kuchar decided, after teeing off and missing the fairway, to mark and then come back out and play. And you may say, well, geez, I mean, come on, Matt. Now, he said he was trying to help Aaron Ryan, some of the guys in his group that were trying to get things done, and he didn't want to be a distraction and hold them up. He said, quote, nobody wants to be the guy that's showing up today, one person, one hole, not even one hole, half a hole to putt. But at the same time, I'll give you all the differences in what it made him. Now, he hit the flagstick and had an easy par. And so the difference is this. He ended up tying for 12th, and he won $144,965, which it's a lot of money for a guy like this, maybe not so much. Had he bogeyed the 18th, he would have taken home nearly half that. In fact, a little less, right around half, $77,025. But a birdie would have gotten him to $223,000 plus. So again, he ended up with a par and a shade under $145,000. Now, he's taken a little heat on that because that sent Matt Kuchar's career earnings to $59,932,212. I love Kuch, and I get what he was doing, but I also get why he's taken a lot of heat, and he did end up he apologized. He said, I had to bring all these people back, and the tournament was not officially over until he finished, so, I mean, there was a lot for the PGA to have to do, and they had to come back out, and they didn't have to treat the whole course, like they would for a tournament, but they had to make sure they couldn't, start anything else, around the course and getting it cleaned up and ready for, regular play, Sedgefield Country Club up in Greensboro. So, I'd never heard of anything like that, and I watch a lot of golf. I imagine it's happened. Sometimes they call things, for weather, for darkness, but it'll be a bunch of dudes that are out there still playing. In this case, again, his first shot was a little bit left of the fairway. The first ball he hit ended up right on front of the green, hit the flag, made par from 2 feet, and won himself $144,000. So, and there was nobody out there other than, I guess, like an official and a few people on the course. So, I've heard of worse. But Matt Kuchar, $59 million. People are like, Matt, doesn't really matter that much. Just finish the hole, bud. You've won that much. But I don't know. I mean, I get it. Even if you've won $59 million, I guess 70-something thousand is still a lot of money, right? That's a new car. That's a nice vacation for the Kuchar family somewhere, I'm sure. Vacations, tuitions, whatever it might be. So way to go, Matt. $59 million plus. Dave, that's what you would do, right? You've made about $59 million in your career, haven't you? Give or take? Yeah. Well, good for Matt. I like Matt Kuchar. I'm fine with that. Hey, real quick before I get out of here, I don't have. Maybe I'll make Dave pull some things out. But happy 75th birthday to the legend that is Mark Knopfler. Yeah, 75, man. Yeah, you know, he's from Newcastle, and so is our good friend Tony Annan. Now, Tony's met Brian Johnson, who's from Newcastle. I don't know if he's ever met Mark Knopfler. I need to find that out, too. It's a big city, so, you know, Sting's from there as well. Hour 2, Terry's coming down. A lot more from Shane Beamer. Keep it here. You're listening to the Postgame Show. 4 o'clock on this Monday afternoon. Welcome back in. It's the Postgame Show. Jay Phillips here inside the Herndon Chevy Studios, downtown Columbia. Captain David, Master Control. Elijah Campbell is enjoying time off with his family. We'll get him back in here next week. Tomorrow on the program, our good friend David Cloninger will co-host with me. And I'll just go ahead and tell y'all, we're probably going to have to talk about what the Braves aren't getting done this year. But it'll be from David's perspective. So it'll be not at all cynical, not at all tinged with anger, a very calm and thoughtful approach to what the Atlanta Braves need to do, which may or may not include David saying fire everybody. No, they won't do that. It's been rough. Yesterday, the Braves blew a 6-run lead. I think they've done that like once in the last. It was something. I have to go back and find the stat, but it's been a while. It's been a while since the Braves have blown a 6-run lead. And you may say, well, they did it in Denver. And, sometimes the Rockies score a lot of runs. Yeah, the Braves can score enough runs too. It's just not happening. It's been tough, but just not happening for Atlanta this year. Injuries have mounted up. You try not to use that as an excuse, but when there's been so many and crucial ones at that, I mean, your starting center fielder, who's a defensive wizard, your reigning MVP, who's also very good at everything he does. Ozzie Albies is sort of the glue of the team. He is on the shelf for the second time for an extended period. Spencer Strider missing the whole season, basically. Max Fried's been on the IL, at least twice for 2-week stints. Now Ronaldo Lopez is on the IL. It's just, again, I'm trying not to make excuses. Austin Riley missed a little time. Matt Olson was slumping for 2 months, swinging at everything. It's just not happening, man. Even though the Braves for a while had the best bullpen in baseball, they were turning over to those guys a lot. We'll see. But Braves where are the Braves tonight? San Francisco, I think. Yeah, San Francisco tonight, 9:45. It's been tough. It's been tough, Braves fans. We'll get there. Interesting story I want to get to here real quick. And I'll bring Terry's coming down to hang out. I want to bring him in on this. Many of you have heard of Real Madrid's young star. His name is Vinicius Jr. Now, look, Kylian Mbappe, the great French player, is going, and Terry has had this problem in his career, so he'll be able to fit right in.
Absolutely. What do you got? When
I ask him this, Vinicius is 24 years old. Real Madrid last year won the Champions League, and they won the Spanish League, and he's Brazil's best player these days. There have been initial talks, very limited and preliminary talks between the Saudi Public Investment Fund, like the Live Tour.
Oh, our Live guys.
Yeah, they also own the Saudi Pro League, and they are doing in the Saudi Pro League in soccer what they're doing with the Live Tour. They're overpaying big names, in the hopes that people will pay attention to it. So far, I don't think it's really working unless you're a Cristiano Ronaldo.
I'll say Ronaldo's there, right? And who else? There's one other.
There's a few. Karim Benzema is there. There's a few big names over there, but not too many. N'Golo Kante, I don't want to go too far in the weeds with people that you've never heard of, but Kante's a big star too. But anyways, so Vinicius, the early word from Spain. Is that the Saudi Pro League and the PIF owns, I think, 4 of the clubs in the league.
Okay.
All right. They would pay him, at least, again, this has been discussed, an annual salary of $382 million a year.
And how many games would that be, Jay? Give me a number.
40-ish.
So we're looking at
maybe
almost
50 because they won't be. He wouldn't play in like the big European Champions League, but there's an equivalent in Asia.
So how many games do you think he would play?
Maybe up to 50.
Okay, for $380 million.
Yeah.
So he's getting paid roughly
a little over $7 million.
$7 million a game.
Game.
A game.
Yeah. Now again.
Okay.
That's the preliminary report. Now that's again, this is not official, but here's the catch, Terry Ford. Again, in soccer, unlike here what we do in America with trades or free agency, and I've explained this to you before. A club has to buy the contract of a player from another club unless that player is indeed a free agent, which Vinicius Jr. is not. At age 24, he is locked up. His current contract runs through the 26-27 season. So summer of 27, he would become a free agent. But I can assure you, sir, that there is no way on God's green earth that he's going to become a free agent because he will be locked into a new contract by then, guaranteed. All right, so he won't become a free agent. He has a release clause in his contract for purchase of said contract. Would you like to guess how much that release clause is?
Give it to me.
€1 billion, or a shade over $1 billion. And that's in the contract. It's not like we think that's what it is. That's in the contract. They knew how good this kid was when they signed him to this big. And I think now he's making right under $1 million a week. Now, he makes a lot of money for a 24-year-old superstar. But a $1 billion, euro. I think I forget the exchange. It's like maybe $1.05 is a euro. So you can do that math. So here's the thing, though. I think the Saudis could go, okay, here's the billion, and then we're going to pay you $380 million.
The Saudis keep like $1 billion in their glove compartment. I mean, $1 billion for the Saudis is nothing, man.
I don't know. Listen, if he were 34, no brainer.
Right.
But you will step down so far in terms of quality of competition.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I've heard. It's like Ronaldo, and Ronaldo's what, 50, 60 now or something?
He's 38.
Isn't he the leading scorer in that league or something?
Yeah,
doesn't he just run around there kicking opposite foot and they tie his shoes together just for fun and he still runs around and kills these guys?
Right.
Is it sort of like watching
He's like, but let's see, it also
Lionel Messi does in the MLS? Is it the same kind of thing?
Or what LeBron was just doing for America at 39 years old.
I mean, I'm like again, and you know me, I have such a love for soccer. But just I've heard just Messi just running around, just goofing, and he's still scoring when he feels like it.
But he was doing that in France when he played for Paris.
So it just shows you the level of and Ronaldo's doing the same thing in Saudi Arabia.
Yeah.
So if you bring this dude at that age into that league, what's he do? What kind of damage is he going to do?
I think MLS is a better league than the Saudi league in terms of overall competition. The difference is there's only like 8 clubs in the Saudi league, so it's not that hard to have. But then you just see everybody all the time. When I saw these numbers,
it's ridiculous. But I'll ask you this because again, you love this stuff. God love you. We always look at like for example, quarterbacks in the NFL. We go, are you serious?
Right.
Really,
Right.
really? But that's the most important position in team sports. And you don't win without one of these guys at a high level. And the market's the market. And in comparison to salary caps, the market's the market. And, we're goofy where we think we should be paying people to throw footballs this kind of money in our society. When you look at a soccer player with a in any part of his contract,
$1 billion buyout,
and outside of this country, how big this sport is in the world.
right?
Are you surprised that's in the contract?
That's a lot.
To that level of money?
That's a lot of money.
Now, is that too much?
Because basically, is it too much? Again, it's like we say about anything in a market society. It's worth what someone's willing to pay.
Right.
Now, I think when they put the $1 billion release clause into his contract, that was just to scare off any other European team. I don't know that they had really thought then,
right.
Oh, crap.
All those rich Saudi dudes will laugh at this. Right. You have to make this $5 billion.
I don't know that they really envisioned that. I just think they were like, listen, listen, Real Madrid is the premier club on the planet.
Right.
I mean, it's a dream for millions and millions of kids to be able to play for them. That's why Mbappe's going there. I mean, they don't need him, right? They just proved once again they're the best team in the world.
Right.
They just proved it. All they did to like cap it off was to, in the offseason, add the best player in the world to the best team in the world. So
which seems fair.
Yeah. So they just this was done to scare people up, but it might not scare this. Now it might scare the Saudis. I mean, look, even what do you tell me a lot of times? Even really rich people like to keep their money close to the vest. Now, they got a lot of money. So could they do this? Sure. Will they do this? I don't know. But to your point about, like, and that's why I'd love somebody, like, who's the guy? I know I'm going down a rabbit hole, but I'll come back, I promise. Who's the guy on NBC that did the politics, and now he does, like, all of the stuff, then he wears the tie and the rolled-up sleeves.
Oh, Kramer?
Not Kramer. No, on NBC News, like Kornacki.
Oh, Kornacki.
Yeah, that guy. Yeah. I'd love for a guy like that who studies all the numbers to give us, like, an equivalency of what a contract would be worth, or because I thought you were taking me, like, what would Patrick Mahomes?
That's kind of where, well, I'm kind of looking at it like the value we put on quarterbacks.
Yeah.
And take that in the world of soccer, which the money is just crazy, but it's the world's game.
Yeah. But Mahomes makes what Mbappe makes, what Vinicius makes. Now, again, if Vinicius were to really go and make $382 million a year, I mean, come on, man. Nobody could, even Jarrah. If Jarrah had no salary cap, he ain't paying any Dallas Cowboy that kind of money.
Oh God, no! He didn't really want to pay a couple guys right now. That
I love about those CD Lamb. We miss you.
We miss you.
Stop it.
Yeah,
just stop.
It's.
But they have a salary cap, so they have constraints. Man,
I certain constraints where there isn't.
But what would
soccer?
What would listen? There wouldn't. Again, you can put anything into a contract, so. What you typically see here, a lot of guys don't have release clauses, or a lot of guys might have one and then you can negotiate. But I would love to know what value would be placed upon Patrick Mahomes if Jerry Jones went to Clark Hunt and said, I want to buy his contract.
Basically an open market.
Yeah. I mean, I have no idea. I mean, I would think it would be worth a couple $100 million. Because, I mean, some of the dudes that do transfer, that's, I mean, like, again, I won't say names, but Arsenal last year paid £105 million. So, like, what, $120-something million for a player just to buy his contract. And he's pulling down $500,000 a week.
So in America, we think that's just craziness.
Yeah.
But it's an open market, and it is the world's game, and it's what you generate, right? Yeah. I mean, what kind of revenue do you generate in comparison to what you get paid?
And it's part of the bottom line, just like anything. Again, just like you do it here. So I would think Mahomes double that. I mean, and the guy Arsenal got last year, he's great. Starts for England. He's really good. He's really, really good. I don't think he's at the Mahomes level.
Yeah, because if you figure... again, when you're playing 50 games, $7.5 million, okay, but if you're playing 18 games at some point, then how are you calculating that? Yeah. To your point.
So but I saw that today. I was like, my goodness.
Yeah, it's just crazy.
And again.
Sort of like reminds me of the radio release.
Well, I was asking Dave about the Matt Kuchar story, and I said, Dave, you made about $59 million in your career because you saw the Matt Kuchar story yesterday.
Yeah, Dave.
He finished this morning at 8 o'clock. 6 minutes. It took 6 minutes for him to hit shots 2, 3, and 4. But he earned himself an additional $77,000 if he had not bogeyed. Or, Well,
if it equals up to what we do here, $77,000 a minute.
Something like that.
Yeah.
But guys, some of the guys on tour were ragging on him because it's like, dude, you've made $59 million. Just go hit a bogey.
Just
get out of here. Go home. Get back to the beach.
Come on, man.
Whatever.
What are we doing?
We'll come back on the other side of the break. Ford's going to hang out for a bit, get into a few more things around what LeBron and Steph and KD did at the Olympics, and more from Shane Beamer. This is the Monday postgame show. Back to regular temperatures, right? 90 degrees in downtown Columbia as we speak. In South Carolina, AAA Heating and Air is your year-round ally against changing weather, whether it's a quick service call like what I had to do at my house a couple of weeks ago, thanks to my guy Ray, Or if it's time for a brand new system, AAA, the best in the business. And now is a fantastic time if a new system is in your family's future. Why? Because Roy and Dana Finley are offering you 12 months, no payments or interest if you buy anytime in 2024. Plus guaranteed financing. Plus $1,500 system buyback rebate. Plus the 15-year parts and labor guarantee. They don't just do work at my house. They do it for a lot of us here, including my good friend Bill Gunner. So don't just take our word for it. Head to the website, get an instant quote, call AAAtoday.com or 803-677-1500. Stay cool with AAA. That's Noah Eagle and D. Wade on the call for NBC Sports as the United States beat France to win the gold medal on Saturday afternoon in Paris. Just an extraordinary performance from Steph, who was in his first Olympic Games in 16. I think, was it 16 where he was a little bit injured, maybe just had a long, grueling season. And then with the COVID thing, he just wasn't really sure about going over there. So he's missed the last two. This is the fourth straight for KD, the third straight gold for LeBron. KD, during the Olympic Games, if you didn't hear, became America's all-time leading Olympic basketball scorer. And accepted his role so graciously as a guy coming off the bench. He might have started one of the games, maybe.
Started the last game. He started the gold medal game.
But hit some. He only had 9 points, I think, against the Serbs. But a couple of them were just key.
It's a one-possession game. Durant gets the ball top of the key. I forget who's come to set the screen. Durant went, no, I'm Kevin Durant. I got this.
Just one little
head, shoulder, two dribbles to the right, hits that shot from the free throw line with a hand in his face.
Yeah.
Just ridiculous.
He was, but Steph, it was fun more than anything, Terry. And I'm dead serious about this, and I think most people get it. What made me happiest, beyond the obvious, which is I pull for my country to win everything, was how excited and into it the players were. Because I think going back, you and I were too little to remember what happened in 72.
Yes.
We both remember that in 88, by then, the blend of some of the Eastern European guys in America was sort of sticking, to the college kids, and they just got beat.
Yeah.
And then in 2004, I don't care what anybody says, I remember watching. Those dudes weren't into it because they're all gajillionaires and they just didn't care. I'm sorry, but they didn't. They just didn't care.
They thought they'd roll the ball out and win no big deal.
We're America.
We're America.
Right. And you had won, the Dream Team and then Dream Team 2 and then the guys in 2000 won rather easily. And the 04 guys were just like, meh. And then remember 08 became the Redeem Team. But that was always one of the big concerns, is how seriously are these guys going to take it? And I know you and I have talked this before. Having Coach K was important for a couple of reasons. Number one, the game is a lot more collegiate than the NBA game. And two, none of them were going to – there's no way you're walking over Mike Krzyzewski. So he was in charge. And I think, with what Steve Kerr's doing now, it's different, obviously, than Coach K, but Steve is clearly in charge, and those guys know what he's about. And it's nice to have a couple of dudes that won a title with him on that team.
Right.
But you do have to get in the back of your mind, hey, are they going to take this as seriously as you'd like to think?
As serious as the other, because the rest of the world takes it seriously.
And you saw that, right? America got pushed a few times, which I think is excellent for the world and excellent for the sport. But watching Steph on Saturday, and, I had to keep giving reports to Mrs. Phillips as we were continuing to move our daughter into college. Well, at least year 2 of college, but moving her into a new place. And she was like, just go watch the game.
I guess I could picture her, by the way, doing this.
She was.
We just go watch the game.
Yeah, she was like,
please.
Just quit. I was like, you need me? She's like, just finally, she was like, just seriously, go.
That's a good woman right there. Go watch the game and come back when you're done.
She's a huge basketball fan. So, but she could hear what was going on. She just couldn't see it. But Steph was unconscious, man. And but the way you could look at him and tell it mattered. That made me, I think, the most excited. Maybe that makes me the little kid that still loves the Olympics like that. But I see I watch the World Cup. We watch a lot of other events where there's a more even playing field, right? And basketball is just not that. Again, there's gold medal or failure, and that's how
for the U.S. Absolutely,
yeah. So I thought it was a really big deal to see what those guys did, and the way they did it.
Watching them all, watch that fourth quarter against Serbia told you everything you need to know. Those cats were locked. Kevin Durant's picking up dudes full court on defense. You got LeBron grinding, pulling down boards. You got Embiid falling all over the floor. Those guys were locked in to win, right? It mattered. You could see every time somebody made a shot, it mattered. Just the emotion. And you watching like LeBron and Durant, every time Curry made a bucket, they're the first guys running over, just slapping each other, and Durant's spitting. Durant didn't do that playing for like the NBA title, right?
Right.
And I'm with you. It made it next level for me to watch because they cared so much. I mean, these guys have more money than I was joking about earlier. They got more money than some small countries, right? And they care that deeply about winning that medal. And it really mattered. Hell, Durant's got 3 other ones. He acted like he never had one.
Yep.
And I love that. And again, not American, but Novak Djokovic, who has won 20-some majors, jumped in the stands crying and hugging his family when he won the gold medal. And here's a guy that he's a gajillionaire with a ton of titles. He might go down as the greatest male tennis player ever. That gold medal, that mattered.
Yeah.
So it's great to see these pros drop to the level, because the one thing like you said, college kids, it matters. Amateurs, it's matter. These pros are going to soil it and ruin it, right?
Yeah.
And again, every now and then we see they do. But when you watch what we just watched in the Olympics with these pros, and especially circling back to the U.S. Olympic men's team, it made you feel even better about it because they cared like we did watching it, right?
And I'm hopeful that because I don't know the way LeBron's playing.
It's ridiculous.
He may play
back
because I mean, if that again, like we said about Ronaldo over in Saudi, but that's the difference in him being in Saudi. I don't think Cristiano Ronaldo. Now it's a different sport, but LeBron's got to get up and down the floor 80-something games a year, you know. But the way he was playing, he was 29. Not 39. Maybe he will play in it. I don't want to. They already talked about Jason Tatum in L.A. and I'm like, y'all, let's hold on a second. But
they needed something to whine about, right?
But Holiday had his moments. Again, Tatum was out there. He looked okay at times. Edwards is growing into his own.
How about him on D?
Yeah.
I mean, I felt bad for the French point guard at some point because Edwards is hounding him everywhere. He couldn't even dribble the ball. I mean, there was one time trying to get it over the line, and Edwards is inside his shorts, which would be probably illegal in a lot of countries. But it's just, I mean, Anthony Edwards was so locked in on defense in the gold medal game against the backcourt of France. Was impressive.
And France, played well. Obviously, they've got a few dudes that are NBA guys.
Guess what? It's coming in 4 years too, because remember they went how high did they go in the last draft? The 2 Frenchies.
Yeah, tops.
It's coming, and they got that Victor kid that's pretty good.
Yeah.
So
it's going to be fun to watch, but I think there was enough blend in USA basketball. Kudos to Grant Hill and the guys that managed this thing. Obviously, the coaching staff was fantastic, but we knew that. I mean, that's 3 NBA champion head coaches, and then Mark Few is no title yet, but
Mark Few's been to some Final Fours. He knows what's up.
He's doing all right. But they gave the young guys enough of a taste, and not only the taste, but the young guys saw LeBron and KD and Steph and their reactions and realized right there, this thing matters.
So I was going to say, isn't that the best culture? You know how you hand off to the next Olympics, how they did it yesterday with Goofy Tom Cruise and all that stuff? Well, that's what KD, Steph, and LeBron are doing, right? We're handing the mantle off to you guys. You understand this is how much this matters because look at us.
Yeah.
So if it matters this much to us, it better matter to you guys in 4 years.
Do we know, by the way, do they still call it Staples Center? Or was that what?
No, it's
will they play basketball there, or will they have gymnastics there? Like, where are they going to play basketball?
I don't know. They got a couple different places.
When does Ballmer's place?
Yeah, Ballmer's
open?
place is open. You've got the old
So one of those, Staples or Ballmer's new place will have Olympic basketball.
Yeah, one of the two places will get it.
Okay.
Yeah. But it was cool, man.
I mean, I'm already excited about the next one.
I was geeked up, man. I'm not gonna lie to you.
It was great. I mean, I thoroughly enjoyed it. I mean, I figured we would win, right? But to see their level of emotion, I thought was tremendous, and it made me feel really good about 4 years now. And now you can't lose in America, right?
No, you can't lose in America.
Right. You can't lose anywhere, but now.
No, you definitely can't lose.
By the way, the French became the first host nation to medal any color since America won gold in Atlanta. That's pretty crazy.
How about those guys?
France is coming around.
They're doing all right.
All right, back to some Gamecock talk on the other side of the break. You're listening to the Monday afternoon postgame show. Well, some of the basketball players might be a little bit older, but still feeling good. But maybe you're getting a little bit older and you're not feeling so good. And you're wondering why. Is it just age? Is there something else? Don't wait for it to change. Don't wait for it to go away. Don't tough it out. Instead, set up a consultation with Dr. Dan Balknight and his team at the Men's Clinic. Dan will sit down and have a one-on-one with you and get to the root of the issue. He'll ask you all the things you do every day, and then figure out where those gaps and holes might be and get you back to feeling like you used to, like you want to. No such thing as a one-size-fits-all treatment when it comes to the Men's Clinic. You can learn more about what Dan and the team do when you log on to themensclinicsc.com. And better yet, call 803-875-MENS and set up that consultation right now. Dr. Dan Balknight and his team at the Men's Clinic ready to take care of you.
A few slowdowns for you on your way home this afternoon. We'll take a look at I-20, 94.5 mile marker, 23 miles an hour. And moving at this time, a lot of construction along through there. 26 westbound, 378 all the way down through Malfunction Junction. Moving about 22 miles an hour. And then 126 coming into that little mess there. All that construction, of course, causing a slowdown 15 miles an hour. So expect a slight delay, but you'll get through it. Just be very, very careful. This is Captain Dave, WIS-TV Traffic Center.
We were talking Olympics, and we'll get into some Gamecock football. Terry and I were just talking about Gold Zone, which was fun. I miss them already. Like this morning, I was like, I went straight to Peacock, and I was like, oh, wait.
Gold Zone?
Like it's my like your brain works that way.
Oh, yeah.
I was like, oh.
See, I mean, you were right. I mean, Gold Zone was Red Zone on steroids.
Yeah.
And you're right.
That's a bad word at the Olympics, Terry.
You're not supposed to say that?
Well,
PEDs are frowned upon.
A little bit.
But,
a little bit.
it's like I'm with you. I mean, you made a good point off the air that because again, anything like Red Zone, because that's my crack. I love Red Zone.
Red Zone's awesome.
Red Zone's my jam.
Yeah.
And so I like the Gold Zone thing because it gave me kind of like the Red Zone. But you were right; it was so much faster even than Red Zone.
And so many things. Again, even Elijah and I were talking about
9 things on the screen.
Like with Red Zone on a Sunday afternoon, like in the 1 o'clock window, the most you're going to have like 6, maybe 7 games, right? In the 1 o'clock window.
Right.
Usually that's the one that's more full. Then the 4 o'clock window. Even now they try to spread that out. And obviously now we got 3 national games a week. So, but with Gold Zone, with the Olympic Gold Zone, even with Scott Hansen there in the afternoons or whatever, I was like, okay, they're going from sailing to archery to gymnastics to diving, and I'm like, okay, and it's always like typically it was kind of cool because most of them were literally trying to switch to a medal winning moment of some variety. So that was cool. But I was like, well, one of the things I like about the Olympics is the stories. And so you try to learn about some of these people. You know, you're not going to remember them.
Right.
You know, because you cram so much in. But it was cool. It was a good idea. I did watch it. But I just found myself eventually just like going back over to the network.
Well, because when I talked about it earlier today is like, you know, these Olympics, they were pulling NFL regular season game numbers. I mean, people were dialed in America to these Olympic games. I mean, over 30-some million average. That first Sunday was 41 million, which was right there with the Washington-Dallas Thanksgiving Day game.
That's like playoff or Thanksgiving. I was going to say, that's like playoff or national game.
I mean, the Olympics just, I mean, for whatever, and everybody's got their reasons, but we as a country got locked in on the Olympics this year. And I think the other thing they did that I thought was smart, at some point you got to read the room. You can't hide the results from us anymore.
No.
We know what's up, right? We have this thing called social media and the internet. And, you know, I was kidding earlier. NBC can't call, you know, Twitter and say, can you not put the results out and wait till prime time, please?
Or the app on my phone.
Exactly.
Plural apps.
So basically NBC went like this. Screw it.
Yeah.
And they just said, we're going to carry it all during the day, and then we're going to package it up at night, because, again, maybe you can't watch it during the day and you can see it at night. And they just went with the flow of understanding the world, and I think that helped them, too.
Absolutely.
I really did.
And Peacock, listen, I've said before, get Peacock anyway. Peacock's great, but, like, what Peacock was doing for the Olympics was... So, I mean, just fantastic.
I agree with that. And I think the first 50 people that get Peacock right now, you will pay for their Peacock membership, right?
Yeah, something like that.
Since you're pimping it so hard.
I did get a notice this morning that Peacock just went up $2 a month. I was like, well, they had to pay for those Olympics.
That's right. Hey, you know, the other thing I think they're doing smarter, again, now you can gauge audience better. You kind of get the idea that people aren't just watching it on TV, they're streaming it. And now you're starting to catch a better gauge of audience, too, to be fair.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it was, that was a good 2 weeks, man. That was fun.
It was fun.
I'm not going to lie to you. I enjoyed it.
I'm trying to think, where's the next the Winter Games, you know? Is it Italy?
I can't remember. I know Salt Lake City's 2036 or whatever, but I can't think of the next Winter Games.
I think it's Italy.
Well, I got a phone.
Well, we'll find that out.
Why don't you do that? Why don't you say something?
Well, speaking of Winter Games here, cut number 5, please, Dave, as we get back into some Shane Beamer sound. And you've got a lot of guys right now up front and a lot of bodies. What's it like when it comes to shifting them around? You get a little winter sport nod in here.
Like a hockey shift. There's not a first group, second group, third group. I mean, I saw, you talk about the top 6 guys. I saw all 6 of them in with all 3 groups. And that's what I told Sterling yesterday. Do what you need to do to get those guys some work. And we only have 6. You know, you'd love to have a little bit more. So we actually had to use some other bodies just to spell those guys. So we were out there for 100-plus plays today. We needed to be smart with not just playing those 6 all 100. So we got some other bodies in there to spell those guys. But that's absolutely what it was. All those guys bring a skill set to that group, and like the way they're working and coming along right now.
Yeah, I mean, so there you go, a little hockey shift, like a hockey line.
Which is cool. I mean, look, first of all, it'd be fun if they actually did it like that every minute and a half. Would be kind of fun, wouldn't it?
Hey, I mean, why not?
I mean, look, what I like about this team, and especially this defense, it's so much deeper, right? The depth. We talked about, look, just me being here for the last, That's the end of Shane's first year for the Mayo Bowl and the last 2 regular seasons. Depth has been an issue, right?
Yes.
It has found a way to bite them in some way, shape, or form. They're just a much deeper football team everywhere. The offensive line is deeper, receiving room is deeper, running back room is deeper. You look at the level 1 of the defense up front, on the edge and the interior is deeper. Linebacking room is deeper. I mean, and there was depth at DB already, but it's just a much deeper team, Jay. So they can rotate these bodies on defense, and guys are getting less snaps, and they're fresher in the fourth quarter for when you really need to make stops in the SEC. Ain't a bad thing, man.
No, it'd be kind of cool. Look, I mean, obviously it won't be just like a hockey line, but at the same time, that's one of the questions that we've asked somewhat rhetorically about those groups like linebacker and the guys up front on defense, where you can continually put guys in and out. And if there's not a lot of separation, and that's one of the things that we'll learn here in the next couple of weeks, is what kind of separation do we have on that depth chart? Is it 1A, 1B, 1C, or is it 1, 2, 3? And I know that's semantics to some degree, but y'all get what I'm saying. If there's not a lot of separation and you can keep them fresh and they all have an understanding of one another, because I think, Terry, that's also crucial. And especially for the guys up front that are veteran guys, Tonka and Boogie, they can probably finish each other's sentences, if you will, right?
Probably.
Things like that. And if you know what the other guy's supposed to do, it would make that level of interchange a lot easier for Clayton and Sterling to figure that kind of thing out. So, and Travian. So I'm curious to see if they can pull something like that off, or if they would want to pull something like that off.
You know what I just hope defensively? Look, they found something in November. They switched up that 3-3-5. They changed some of the coverages in the back end to protect, again, because they just couldn't cover the slot. Right. And they tweaked some stuff. They got more pressure on quarterbacks. They were starting to make some more havoc plays at the line of scrimmage. And yeah, look, they weren't facing, any juggernauts on offense. Clemson couldn't throw the ball downfield. Vanderbilt's Vanderbilt. I mean, and Kentucky's not an offensive machine. But the difference was they dictated to the offense. And that was different than we saw the first 2 months. I just hope, because sometimes you overthink the room, Jay.
Yeah.
I just want them to, hey, you found something in November. Stay down that road. And whatever you found, don't go, oh, now we're going to do this, and we're going to go back to this. Just you understand that clicked, right? That worked. And just continue in whatever way, shape, because I'm not defensive coordinator, can't spell it. But just continue down the path of what was working well for you. Because that defense was a different animal in November. If
that's again, I use this term a lot. If that's the jumping off point,
right?
That's a great point to jump from.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and I'm with you 100%. And you're right about like Clemson, but again, Clemson didn't score an offensive touchdown.
No. Well, think about it. Clemson scored an offensive touchdown against you. Vanderbilt, you could have had 8 downs and not really done anything.
They finally got one very late.
Yeah, I mean, you and I were in the game at that point. Kentucky scored under 20.
They had one.
Right. I mean, that defense really stepped up. And remember, the Kentucky game, Wildcats got the rock back after the touchdown pass, and the defense bowed up and got the big stop, and I believe got the turnover.
Yeah.
So that defense was a whole different – it was just different. And I just think – like you said, I think you said it perfect. It's the jumping off point for 2024.
Come back on the other side, a few more cuts from Shane. And if you didn't hear who won our big contest on Twitter about the best Gamecock moment of this century, we'll remember that as well. You're listening to the Monday postgame show.
Did a good job. I thought he's had a good week. I think you guys have been at some practices in the past where we do some of those one-on-ones and call the whole team up and have somebody do a one-on-one rep against another player. And we did that earlier this week with Mo and one of the running backs, and Mo won the rep, and it was great to see that and just the response of his teammates around him as well. And he's good. He's very, very workmanlike in what he's doing. And without having watched the tape already, I thought he had a solid day.
That's Shane Beamer on Mo Kaba's performance in the scrimmage on Saturday. Mo, of course, coming back once again after 2 just really, really difficult knee injuries. But heard his press conference last week saying basically quitting the team was never an option. I'm here to do this.
He wants his job back. Yeah. Remember that? That was good.
That's great. Yeah. And they've got some real depth at linebacker now. And listen, I mean, here's hoping he can go full bore. And we've talked about it a bunch through the years. Trusting your body again is going to be job one. I think from a football standpoint, he knows exactly what he's doing, and they know what he can give them.
Right.
But like you just heard Shane there, hey, he won. In a certain drill that's physically demanding. He won the rep. He won the drill. I mean, that's something. Yeah. Go do it again. Go do it again. It's football, right? All right, good. Do it again. Good. Do it again. Right. The old Tom Osborne. Good. Do it again.
Yep. I mean, with Kaba, and we were talking about this earlier, anybody that's ever hurt themselves, rehab sucks. I mean, think of all the rehab Mo Kaba's gone through in the last couple of years. And he keeps coming back. God love him. I mean, he's got a great attitude, but we had him around here. He's a good, he's a good
great.
dude.
Yeah, when he's been in here,
great mentality.
He's tremendous. He's just
a good guy.
Yeah.
And so I'm not surprised he continues to grind, and quitting was never an option.
Right.
I mean, when I hear that from him, it doesn't surprise me one bit, because we've had, like I said, the times we've had him around, you go like this, I can see him being that way. That's tough, man. Look, you root for people in general, but you really root for a guy like Kaba, who's got such a good attitude, just a good personality in general. And I mean, last year you just get what, first play?
Yeah, basically.
Almost one of the first special teams play or whatever it was. Yeah. And he had just fought so hard to come back from the last one against Arkansas.
Right.
So, yeah, I hope it works out for Mo.
When you see things like that, too, it just the gut punch to everybody is a big one.
Absolutely.
But here's hoping for sure. Do we say congratulations to this team? Or have they been congratulated enough? Congratulations to the 2010 College World Series champions. As they were voted by you, our listeners, as the best moment in Gamecock sports history this century. Not ever. Although I'd love to figure out at some point if we could do that. But, I guess ever is going to be tough.
That'd be really tough. That's why we cut it off at 2000.
Goes back a while.
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't surprised that moment won.
I might still, you know what? If you put it up against some things, that still might be.
Yeah.
The big.
Okay, let's go 1 or 2. I mean, again,
Well, from when I was, again, I don't remember it, but growing up, South Carolina winning the ACC basketball tournament on the last play, like the tip-in against North Carolina, like that became, I think that probably was the biggest
gigantic moment, yeah.
And when that happened, because remember back then that was the only way to get to the NCAAs. You had to win your conference tournament, or at least win your conference. Because I don't know if everybody had a tournament. Like Big Ten didn't have a tournament for a while, right?
For a long time, they took their regular season champion. The ACC tournament was a thing back then.
Yeah.
A thing.
But South Carolina winning that, George winning the
Heisman.
I mean, some big games here and there, but big regular season moments. The love that the #1 Alabama win got.
Yeah, that was second.
Poll.
That finished, I believe, a close second. There was nobody close to the top moment.
Yeah, 61% for the
tore it
baseball
up.
team.
Then Alabama finished second, barely ahead of. I'm trying to remember now.
I'll go back and look.
Go back and get it.
But
61% of the vote went to the 2010 championship.
Yeah.
And plus, how it was when you and I were talking about this earlier. It's won in extra innings. It's a game-winning hit from Whit Merrifield, and just that moment was. It was so tense to begin with, right?
Right.
And you're in extra innings like that, and then you get the big knock to win the game and win the championship.
No, it was a big deal. I mean, it was more than a big deal. And I'm not at all surprised. I did feel I mean, we knew it was going to be a part of the 16 moments that we initially voted upon, or you guys all out there voted upon. Well, we're not allowed to vote, but I didn't know if it'd be a little tighter, or like Dawn's first title. But I was surprised, maybe not too much, that the number 1 Alabama game. But I remember that morning, game day was here. You felt something was beginning to build in Columbia. Stephen Garcia had the game of his life. Really, I think it was all downhill after that. God bless him. But that was big because you'd not done it, and when you've not done something, but to go back to my point, that was a regular season moment, and that's really what a lot of Carolina fans that's it. That's the hard part.
Right.
It's just a lot of the memories are great regular season moments. Again, the ACC tournament would be a little bit different. But when you think about like Eddie's best teams, their disappointment at the national level was
huge. Yeah.
That's
the joke about getting kicked in the gut.
Yeah.
Had a couple of those being a 2 seed.
Yeah. Two in 97 and a 3 the next year.
Two and a 3. Yeah.
He lost to a 15 and a 14.
Yeah. I mean, I thought. I was not surprised that the 2010 championship won. I was just surprised in the landslide that it won in. It wasn't even close. Right from the get-go, when we did the finals starting last week with the votes, it jumped out there right from the start and never lost momentum.
The Bama game, by the way, so 60.9% officially for the 2010 title, 19.1% upset of Alabama, and then a dead 10% tie for the 2011 baseball title and Dawn's first title in 17.
There you go.
So, big stuff. Thanks for hanging out.
Yeah, no problem, man.
Appreciate it.
Hey, like old days.
Yeah,
it's cool.
Fun. That's fun. Headlines of the day coming up. More from Coach Beamer. A drive around the SEC. All part of the final hour of the postgame show. You're listening to The Game.
All right, on the roads this afternoon, we're still looking at some slow traffic in a couple of areas going into Malfunction Junction. That's not unusual for this time of the day, but a lot of traffic coming over from the West Columbia side on 26 westbound. Right through there also slows down traffic for 126 as well. But some big slowdowns out on 20 around the 94 and 95 mile marker near the Watery River Bridge. Slowing down there. Construction going on through there and just kind of slows down to a crawl about 20 miles an hour, basically, if you happen to be going through there. This is Captain Dave in the WIS-TV Traffic Center.
It is 5 o'clock news time on this Monday. Welcome back in. It's also the final hour of the postgame show with Captain David, Master Control. Jay Phillips here. Elijah Campbell is enjoying time off with his family, and we'll have him back here next week. Gamecocks had their first intra-squad scrimmage of August camp on Saturday at Williams-Brice. And by all accounts, everything was good, especially because, for the most part, nobody got hurt. There were a few guys held out. Captain Dave, cut number one, please, sir. Shane Beamer after the scrimmage on the injury report.
Injury-wise, just normal bumps and bruises associated with preseason training camp. These guys didn't scrimmage today. Marquis Anderson, Vandravius Jacobs, Elijah Davis, Chakai Moore, Reed McKeska, Juju McDowell, Bam Martin Scott, and Rocket Sanders, Rocket Bam, Juju Reed, Chakai, Elijah, Dre, and Marquis. Nothing major. All those guys practiced this week and had some just normal bumps and bruises and did not go today. Expect all of them to be back at practice tomorrow and ready to rock and roll.
So there you go. No news is good news on the injury front for any football team at any level this time of year. Quarterback continues to be, a concern for every football team anywhere, again, at any level right now. We certainly know that Lenore Sellers is the number one, but here's Shane, cut three, Dave, on how the quarterbacks performed in front of the staff, at least, at Williams-Brice.
Look good. He and Robbie got some work with the first group. Lenore's got some work with the second group. Davis Bevel got some work with that second group. So I thought Dal did a good job of rotating all those guys in there and getting them work. Thought Lenore's did a good job. They looked very poised and composed out there, made some nice throws, had some nice runs, managed the offense the right way. Robbie Ashford flashed. Davis made some good throws. So I thought overall, I think Lenore's has had, a good end of the week. Not that the first of the week was bad, but the last couple of days I've really been impressed with him and like the way that whole group is coming together in that quarterback room right now.
I'll get you another cut on Lenore's in just a second. But before that, Dave, cut number 7, please, sir. The guys that he's going to be throwing to, again, very deep in terms of the numbers, in terms of the bodies, but not a lot of experience as South Carolina Gamecocks, be it transfer or newcomers. So Shane was asked how the wide receiver group is progressing.
Yeah, when you talk about that group, there's no question it is what it is. We have more smaller guys, if you will, than bigger guys. We don't have our top guys are not that body type. But then you also have, Dale Von Campbell and Nick Harbor, who are big bodies on the outside. So I think between Camp and Nick, you got two guys that give you that big presence at the receiver position. And then you've got some other guys that certainly can make plays and have a skill set. And then I wouldn't, rule out, I really like our tight end group. When you talk about Brady Hunt, you talk about Josh Simon, nobody ever talks about Maurice Brown. That guy's going to play a lot for us on offense this year. Mike Smith, David mentioned him, is going to play a lot for us on offense this year. So we're excited about what those two guys have brought to the equation in that tight end room. And like I told our team the other day, Jack, like my job as the head coach is every single week to do what gives us the best chance to be successful and put the best 11 guys out there to play. And whether that means 4 receivers or whether that means no receivers, we'll do what gives us the best chance to win football games. Same thing with running backs, tight ends. Let's find out what these guys do and give them opportunities to go make plays at the running back, tight end, and receiver position.
Some more cuts coming at you from Shane Beamer. Cut number 11 this time, please, Dave. Offensive line. Again, more bodies, so many injuries last year, trying to fit these pieces into the right holes and hopefully keep them cohesive. Shane's report on what the O-line looked like in the scrimmage.
I feel pretty good. They've battled for one, outside of Marquis and Ja'Kai not playing today. They've been healthy, and Marquis just had something that he kind of tweaked a little bit. What's today? Saturday, yesterday, I guess, or Thursday, and then Ja'Kai, same thing. Don't, like I said, expect both of them back at practice. So first part is they've been out there, they've stayed in the fight. We've got a full group out there where we're not like banged up right now. So proud of them from that standpoint, the way they prepared their bodies over the summer to withstand the rigors of training camp. And then overall, I've been pleased. I like the way that group is working. Lonnie is, mixing guys in and out and getting them work at different spots. And I feel like those guys have done a good job. I like the way that we've run the ball in practice this week for sure. And it was good to see some of those backs carry the ball today. We really wanted to come out of this scrimmage having a good idea about the running backs and who we can count on right now and who may be in that rotation going forward. And the offensive line out there gave us an opportunity to do that, in my opinion.
So, again, a couple of guys, Ja'Kai Moore, Marquis Anderson held out. Rocket Sanders was held out as well, just as Shane said, if you missed it at the top. Just a few bumps and bruises. One more from Shane for now, at least. Cut number 12, Dave. Here's about a minute or so from Shane on what he's seeing growth-wise in Lenore Sellers.
Yeah, he's consistent. I mean, that's just who he is. He's the same guy now that he was last year, maybe as a true freshman at this time, and that's a great thing. He's steady, he's consistent, but he's just nothing phases him. He was just out there before I walked in eating lunch and kind of going back and forth with one of the linebackers about something that happened in practice. And today in practice, he had a ball that got batted down on a throw, and TJ Sanders and some of the defensive linemen were on the sideline kind of giving him crap about it. And Lenoris was getting the play call from Dow in his ear, but he was able to listen to the play call and then turn around and tell TJ to be quiet as well. So that's something probably that he wouldn't have done last year, and it kind of took me by surprise, like, Lenoris. But just stuff like that. He's having fun out there. He's got the respect of his teammates, and Lenoris to me is the same guy. I think around him, the way his teammates view him, he has their respect, and they think a lot of him as a teammate and a player.
So there you go. Good stuff from Shane. Again, Carolina will scrimmage again this coming Saturday. So, and I think by that one, when you're, 2 weeks out at that point, you start to get, I think, a lot clearer picture maybe of what this depth chart's going to look like. Not fully. But I think with what they take from this past Saturday, added into practice this week, I think we'll start to really know a little bit more about maybe who starts, who backs up, and things like that here in the coming days. Continuing our integrated media headlines of the day, the Braves yesterday had an 8-2 lead in the seventh inning and ended up losing in Denver 9-8. It was the largest deficit the Rockies had overcome this season, and the 7 runs they scored in the eighth inning were the most in this 2024 campaign. The Rockies had been 3-59 when trailing after 7. The Braves had been 48-2 when leading after 7, and the Braves had not lost a game after having this big of an advantage since the 2018 season against the Boston Red Sox. Also, rookie Spencer Schwellenbach, who's had a really nice season, had his string of 27 consecutive innings without a walk snapped. It had been the longest streak so far in the majors. The Braves are now 61-56 on the season. They are 7.5 back of Philadelphia in the East, but more importantly right now, the Braves are in the thick of it in the wild card chase. If the season ended today, the Braves are in as the last wild card team, but they are now 4 games behind both San Diego and Arizona and just 1/2 game ahead of the New York Mets in that final wild card spot. And it doesn't get any better for the Braves today. Star reliever A.J. Minter is back for the second time this season on the IL with the exact same hip injury that he had in May and June. It's a 15-day stint this time. The Braves have recalled lefty Dylan Lee from Gwinnett to take AJ's spot. This season, AJ is 5-4 with a 2.62 and 1 save in 39 appearances. Braves will be in San Francisco for the next couple of days, taking on the Giants. Not great news for Atlanta. And finally, a couple of golf notes. Matt Kuchar today did something that hardly anyone has ever heard of. He was the last guy to play today. He was the only player last night who took the option of marking his ball when darkness was called at the tournament up in Greensboro. Took him 6 minutes to finish the tournament today, and because he parred it instead of bogeying it, or for that matter, birdieing it, he ended up with a paycheck of just over $140,000, bringing his career total to just over $59 million. So did he need the extra 70 grand? Well, hey, like Dave and I said, that's a nice vacation or a new car. Whatever Matt and the family need. I love Matt Kuchar, though, but interesting story there. And Scotty Scheffler, this is kind of interesting. Scott, I don't know what this is. The Comcast Business Tour bonus. I'd never heard of it, and I'm a golf fan. But whatever it is, it earned Scotty Scheffler $8 million. He finished his number 1 on the Comcast Business Tour Top 10, the second number 1 finish for the world number 1. He won 6 times on tour this year, of course, won the Masters, and he won the gold medal in Paris last week. And this is what every golfer would say. It's been an incredible year for me on and off the course, so to finish up the regular season earning the top spot in the Comcast Business Tour Top 10 is an honor. Every year I try to perform and compete to the best of my abilities. That's what all the kids grow up wanting to do, is win the Comcast Business Tour Top 10. But the $8 million that comes along with it is not so bad. We'll conclude with the AP Top 25. It is out for today. And like the coaches poll, Georgia is number 1. And like the coaches poll, Georgia got 46 first-place votes. But it's a little tighter at the top, as Ohio State got 15 relative to 7. Now, there's a few more voters in the AP poll as well. And Oregon is number 3, just like the coaches poll. So really, the top 5, 6, 7, the top 7 are all the same. From the coaches poll. But the AP is where I'll take you now. Again, Georgia 1, Ohio State 2, Oregon 3. They're the only ones that got first place votes. Oregon got 1. Texas is 4th, Bama 5th, Mississippi 6, Notre Dame 7, Penn State is 8th, Michigan 9th, and Florida State is number 10. Missouri is 11th in the AP poll, followed by Utah, LSU, Clemson at 14, and Tennessee at 15. Oklahoma and Oklahoma State are next. Kansas State is 18th. Miami is 19th. Texas A&M is number 20. And the final 5, Arizona, Kansas, Southern Cal, NC State, and Iowa. The conference breakdown sees 9 of the 16 SEC schools get in, 6 of 18 in the Big 10, 5 Big 12, 4 ACC schools, and Notre Dame in as an independent in the top 10. So there you go. And this is the last full week of August camp. We have games that actually start next weekend, and pretty much everybody gets rolling on the 31st. That is our integrated media headlines of the day, and I'll tell you more about them on the other side. Coming back as well, our good friend Jack Veltri joined us earlier to get more of his thoughts on what happened to the scrimmage on Saturday. You'll hear that when the postgame show returns. Like I said, y'all, football season is nearly here. That means finding the best way to watch the big game. And if you're not inside the ballpark, the best way, no doubt, an amazing home theater system from Integrated Media. Just one call, and Integrated will come out to your home, walk around with you. Next thing you know, they've installed the latest in 4K technology from Samsung and Sony. They've built it around a Dolby surround system that makes you feel like you're part of the action. You want to watch outside? Integrated installs outdoor home theater built around the Samsung Terrace TV and Sonos outdoor speakers. This equipment is built to be outside. It can get rained on, snowed on, whatever. You can have the sprinkler. It's not going to matter. Hot, cold. It's built to be out there 24/7. One room, whole house, outdoors, Wi-Fi that works everywhere all the time. No better way to watch your team and be part of the action than with Integrated Media. 803-948-8327. Feel like you're there with Integrated Media. All right, welcome back in. Post-game show rolling on this Monday afternoon. Jay and Captain Dave with you. Elijah has a few days off. Jack Veltri of Gamecock Central joined us a little bit earlier. He was following along with what happened at the scrimmage on Saturday, and we asked him to start things off here, what's the number one thing you learned this weekend? Good stuff from our buddy Jack Veltri. The full interview up on the podcast page, 1075thegame.com, or on the app. And again, programming note, Jack will be co-hosting with me for the full show on Wednesday. So we'll have a lot more from his beat perspective on what's going on coming up then. And speaking of which, David Cloninger on the beat for the Post and Courier will be joining me tomorrow from 3 to 6. And I'll do my best to not get David too upset like I am about the Atlanta Braves. That's all coming up tomorrow. Coming up on the other side of the break, the drive around the SEC. Some bad news for A&M. We'll get into that for you, and more sound from Shane Beamer and the scrimmage on Saturday. This is the Postgame Show.
Well, some heavy traffic coming in from West Columbia, 26 of westbound, all the way from about the Lee Park Road overpass through Malfunction Junction. It's going to slow down tremendously for you there. And then once you get to Malfunction Junction, move about 12 miles an hour until you get past St. Andrews Road up toward Piney Grove Road. And it's going to move a little bit better for you there. Out on I-20, again, right around the Wateree River Bridge. Slow down there. Most of that due to construction there. And it slows down quite down to about 20 miles an hour. So that a little bit of frustration if you're heading home to Camden this afternoon. This is Captain Dave, WIS-TV Traffic Center.
It is Drive Around the SEC time on this Monday. Welcome back in. Jay Phillips with you here in downtown Columbia's Herndon Chevy Studios. Captain David, Master Control. Elijah has some time off this week. We start the report with some bad news out of College Station. Reuben Owens, one of the best freshmen in the country last season, is going to miss his sophomore year. A&M describing what he has as a significant lower body injury last year. Reuben Owens, 743 all-purpose yards, 3 touchdowns. He was a top 50 recruit. He led SEC freshmen in rushing yards and kick return yards and was going to be, you would think, certainly one of the bigger playmakers for Texas A&M this coming season. A statement released last night by Coach Mike Elko simply said, Reuben suffered a lower leg injury in our scrimmage on Saturday. I will address his injury at my next media availability. A&M does return leading rusher Amari Daniels. Last year, Amari had 532 yards on the ground and 6 touchdowns. Junior running back Le'Veon Moss had 484 rushing yards last year and 5 touchdowns. So, yeah, it's still a significant blow considering the all-purpose availability of a kid like Reuben Owens. So, and again, this time of year, yeah, you don't like to hear things like that. If you missed it last week, and we actually have a cut from Shane on this, Dave, have cut number 2 ready to go for me, please, sir, on today's list. But if you haven't heard, the Southeastern Conference has moved closer. It's not done yet. But the SEC is likely to include a mandatory injury report this coming football season. And I'll get into some more detail, but Shane Beamer was asked about that Saturday after the scrimmage, and here's what he had to say.
I think it is. There's a lot of reasons behind that the SEC is doing that or thinking about doing that. It's something, David, that we talked about in Destin at our head coach our league meetings back in May. We did talk about that as head coaches. I have no problem with it. We actually did it when I was at Virginia Tech working for my dad. The ACC had that policy. I forget what year I was there, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, but one of those years, or maybe more, there was a policy for injuries that you had to put out. And I have no issues with it. We've been fairly forthcoming, I guess, when it comes to injuries. And as long as everybody's, playing by the same rules, I'd have no issues.
And I think he's right, as long as everybody's playing by the same rules. Last season, Florida and LSU both included injury reports as part of their weekly release. But it was not, again, mandated by the conference. Nick Saban was asked about that last year and said, in terms of Alabama not doing it, quote, we also don't want to create a disadvantage for ourselves when situations with players are relatively unknown or day-to-day and don't know how they are going to be by game time. At the professional level, and look, this is done. If you're wondering why would you do it, honestly, it's all about gambling. It's 100% about gambling, and the integrity of the game. The Big Ten mandated this starting last year. They like it. The Big Ten pushed for this 5 or 6 years ago, and again officially put it in last year. If the SEC goes to this, which by the way, SEC ADs are meeting this week, and it is expected that the final decision is made at their meetings. Again, looks like they're headed this way. The SEC would have 2 categories for a player. Either he is questionable or he is out. And so, if someone is deemed out, obviously that's, that one. And with questionable, that leaves the gray area. So a coach wouldn't necessarily be beholden. If you mark somebody as out and then they play, then something comes into question, and I don't know what repercussions there would be. Those are the kind of things and the kind of details that get ironed out in these types of AD meetings. But if someone's listed as questionable but doesn't play, there's no big deal. If somebody, and could you play somebody who was listed as out? I don't know all the details. You would think not. But we'll find that out here in the coming days. Continuing our drive around the SEC with more from Shane Beamer, who had a nearly half-hour press conference after the scrimmage. Dave, I'm going to jump around here in order just to get to a few things. Cut number 20 this time. Rocket Sanders was held out. I think Juju McDowell is held out as well, just for precautions. They are not, and there's no new injuries here. And Shane said they were full go at practice last week and back at practice yesterday. But here is Shane on what the competition at running back looks like so far.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's competition, but to me, everything's based not just on Saturdays. It's based on what you're doing during the week too. And Rocket has done everything in practice. So before the story becomes, oh my God, Rocket Sanders is not healthy. Rocket Sanders is 100% healthy, and he's done everything in practice. And if anything, I've got to tell him to slow down a little bit, because Joe D has a special teams drill, and he pops up and he wants to be the first one in line to go do a special teams drill, and then we're doing one-on-one blitz pickup, the running backs and the linebackers, which is as physical a drill as those guys really get in a short area. And he's blocked blitzing linebackers pretty regularly in the SEC, and he's up there just taking rep after rep after rep after rep. So he's getting his work in during practice. We wanted to see some of those other guys today and just limit him a little bit, without a doubt. But it gave those other guys opportunities, certainly, to try and solidify a role on this team. But there's no question in my mind the way that Rocket is competing in practice. He's gotten better this week out there on the practice field, and expecting to continue to get better this upcoming week, starting tomorrow on the practice field also.
And you did hear us say with Jack Veltri, if you missed it, I'll remind you, though, Jack expecting that Rocket Sanders is in this weekend's scrimmage. Again, no need to push it to aggravate anything that's been bothering him as he continues to get better and better each and every week. But again, a lot on that young man's shoulders here as he comes over to South Carolina. Cut number 15 this time, please, Dave. You heard Shane mention in there some special teams drills and what Joe DeCamillis is doing. What's the kicking competition looking like? Here's what Shane had to say.
I think it's been very inconsistent. I think all those guys have had opportunities in practice that they've taken advantage of, and then they've also missed some really good opportunities to take a step forward. So it's I don't think we're any closer to having a starter at that position. I'm not worried, but it just overall has not been consistent as much as I would like. Having said, Kai Kroger and Mason Love are punting the crap out of the ball right now, so I'm really excited about those two guys and the way they're hitting it. And our kickers will be fine. They just we've got to keep putting them in pressure situations. And one thing that we've done this year preseason different is just putting them in pressure situations where something's on the line for the whole team, good or bad, depending on their kick, and trying to create those, if not daily, pretty much daily.
So there you go. Inconsistent from a kicking perspective. Punting, good. Place kicking, not so much. Time to make things a little bit better, certainly. So keep an eye on that this coming week. And again, another scrimmage at Williams-Brice on Saturday. Speaking of which, one final one from Coach Beamer here, number 13, Dave. And even though the place was basically empty for a lot of guys with Carolina football, it was their first time at Williams-Brice.
It's cool, and we talk about it, that the excitement that I want our guys to have every time they get the opportunity to go in that stadium. Like, to me, when you walk across the street, when you walk across Bluff Road and you get to walk in that gate, through that tunnel, into Williams-Brice Stadium, it's special, it should be different, and it should mean something. And we talked about it today. I mean, in our team meeting this morning before we walked across the street, we showed a video of how great this stadium is and how special it is, and don't ever take for granted getting to go compete on that field as well. So I want them to embrace it. It was, for a lot of those guys, their first time. I walked across the street next to a couple of our freshmen that just got here, and are you excited? And they both said just how nervous they were and things like that, but excited about being out there in the stadium, and I want that. But then once you get out there and you start playing, there's so much coming at you. I don't think those guys have a whole lot of time to kind of sit around and think about it, because it hits them in the face pretty quickly once we start.
Good stuff. Again, Saturday, scrimmage number 2, August 31. Old Dominion, the Monarchs, coming down from the Tidewater area to take on the Gamecocks. That's the drive around the SEC. Brought to you by Herndon Chevy. Save $20,000 on new Silverados together. Let's drive. We already know that Quincy Hall was a Gamecock to win a gold medal. You'll hear from the second Gamecock to win a gold medal at the Olympics when the postgame show returns.
Copper has been Kalia gold today. No timeouts here. Johannes up ahead. It's Williams. That was a 2. Banked it in. A 2-ball. And the United States is going to claim gold for the 8th consecutive Olympics. What a finish. Williams with her foot on the line.
Noah Eagle on the call as the United States beat France in an amazing game. I mean, just inches away from sending that to overtime yesterday was Gabby Williams. Instead, the United States wins 67-66. As you heard Noah say, the 8th consecutive gold medal for the United States. South Carolina's Asia Wilson, one of the great stars of the entire tournament, to be perfectly honest with you. And yesterday, she was at her typical brilliant self. 33 minutes of the 40, 6 of 14 from the floor. She made 9 of her 12 free throws, including some big ones late. 13 rebounds, 21 points, 4 blocks, a steal as well. And here is Asia after the ball game on contributing to what the United States is in women's basketball.
It's amazing. It truly is. The dynasty that we have built here at USAB has been incredible. I'm so proud and blessed to be a part of it, but God was working today. God was working today, and I'm so proud of the resilientness that, like, my team showed. We could have fumbled. We could have crumbled at many times, but we pulled through, and to say that I'm a 2-time gold medalist, I'm so blessed. Like, oh, my God, he was working today, man.
Kelsey Plum yesterday had 12 points. Copper, as you heard Noah say, was really on. She had 12 points, both off the bench. Those are the only 3, along with Asia, to score in double digits for the United States, who rolled through the tournament like the men, undefeated at 6-0, like the men, defeating France in the gold medal final in Paris. 2 amazing games, 2 absolutely fantastic games. And Terry and I talked a lot about the guys earlier. The same thing with the women. They were pushed at times, and it's great to see. I know we as Americans want our country to win, and that will never, ever change. But there have been some times. Listen, it was fun a few times to watch a bunch of NBA dudes beating up on a bunch of countries that had nobody play at their level. But when you think about the Serbia game, and you realize that arguably the best player on the planet in Nikola Jokic is playing for the other guy. And I say that simply because he has 3 of the last 5 or 6 NBA MVPs, and he's got a title. How great he is. Bogdanovic is on that team. You look at France with Wembanyama and what he is becoming. Rudy Gobert is one of the finest defensive players on the planet. France knows what's up. Spain knows what's up. Germany had the Wagner brothers. They're NBA stars. The world is catching up. America is still the best. But it's great to see that kind of competition. And as I've pointed out a bunch today, and I think a lot of folks around the country agree, what was maybe most enjoyable beyond the obvious of winning gold medals for both of these programs was the true joy and excitement and energy that they showed in winning these games and in making big plays. LeBron and KD and Steph were like little kids again. I mean, Steph Curry scored 60 points in the semifinal and final combined, and he was unconscious in the final few minutes on Saturday when France really made it a game and America had to pull away, and Steph got it done. Again, Asia Wilson on another level at times. I mean, multiple double-doubles in this Olympic tournament for Asia Wilson, who may well be the best women's basketball player on the planet. And, of course, Dawn Staley knows a lot about it. She won 3 gold medals as a player. She won a gold medal as an assistant. She's won a gold medal as a head coach. A quick hit from Dawn here on what's happening with women's basketball.
We're hitting on all strides right now. Like the women's basketball, women's sports, we are there. There's no turning back. It only gets better.
Yeah, Dawn, by the way, was living the best life, right? I hope a lot of you got to see what she was doing every day. I mean, she was on TV a bunch, certainly, but her Twitter feed, the people she was meeting, the places she was going, Dawn Staley's a rock star. That's the thing. I mean, for as happy as she was to meet a bunch of people, you could pretty much tell how equally happy they were to meet her. Can't wait to get Dawn in here one day sometime real soon. I'll be working on that. Maybe once she's had a chance to come back and reacclimate to life in South Carolina. But would love to talk with her about her experiences of what she was able to do to support Team USA, all of Team USA, not just the basketball team, but every single American in France over the last couple of weeks. But I do, to cap it off, I've admitted many times in my whole life, I am an Olympics junkie. I absolutely love the Olympics. I don't watch rowing or fencing or table tennis or weightlifting at any other point during a 4-year period, right? Or in the winter, cross-country skiing or ski jump or whatever. But I love the Olympics. And my own tip of the cap to what happened in France, to the French, to the Parisians for what they were able to do to pull off an amazing games, to NBC Sports and the Peacock folks here in America to allow us to watch all of this. I just thought it was absolutely tremendous. And I had a little Olympic withdrawal this morning. I got so accustomed to it as part of show prep the last couple of weeks. Hope you guys enjoyed it, too. Thanks to Jack Veltri. Captain Dave, thank you, sir. David Cloninger with me tomorrow. We'll see y'all then.